Hi, caregivers. I am Jackie from Home Instead. I'm the quality assurance nurse, and we are going to demonstrate the use of the Hoyer lift today. Felicia is going to talk you through it. I will be the patient, and here we go.
All right, the first thing you want to do is come in, greet your client. Hi, Miss Jackie, how are you?
I'm good, Felicia. How are you?
I'm good. We're going to get you ready for the day.
Okay.
All right, so from there, once they're comfortable, you have them roll to whichever side. And what you want to do is tuck the sling under them as best you can. Don't pull it shit too far over because then they won't be centered in the middle of your sling. But once they are, you tuck it as best you can under them. You're good. All right, so it's tucked as far as it can be. Miss Jackie, I'm gonna have you roll back now. And have them roll back to you, all the way to me, Miss Jackie. That way you can open it back up. All the way. Now, in the sling, there's a divot, a little dip in there. That's where their bottom should be. That way, it's like a seat. And you want as much of the sling up at the top of their head to support them so their neck isn't dangling to the side. They need a sense of security as well. All right, Miss Jackie, you can roll back. So once she's rolled from side to side, she should be centered. And then what you have is the hooks that go on top of your Hoyer on the bar to brace them. There are 3-4 different ones, depending on the size of the client and even depending on the client will determine which hooks you use, and they vary by color. So with each client you have who has to use a Hoyer lift, if this is Miss Jackie, if every time I come in it won't be green today and purple tomorrow, it would be the same color. That way you know for the next time. Now when you bring your Hoyer in, you want to make sure it's centered under their bed. There are no locks on all Hoyers. Some do, some don't. This particular one does not. But once you center it under their bed, you want to make sure that this is actually raised up a little bit so it's not too low when you bring it in, because you don't want to hit your client in the head or hit them at all with it. There is, here I'll turn this. There is a little knob here which controls the hydraulic, which raises this bar to lift the client or lower the client. There's a lever here, which is a pump. This should be locked as you're pumping, because otherwise, if it's unlocked, it's not going to go anywhere and it'll come down. As you can see, this is already slowly moving, but that's because the hydraulic isn't locked. So you want to make sure that that is locked, and make sure this actually twists, so you don't want the bar, the lever behind you. You actually want it off to the side so that you can pump it up as you need it or lower it as you need it. There's another lever, which is a little longer, on the back end of the bar, which actually controls your legs on your Hoyer. So depending on where it is, all you do is push down and turn it to the other side, and it actually opens your legs. You don't want to open your legs until you put the Hoyer under the bed. Once it's positioned where you need it to be, you want to open it then so that you have a bigger base once you lift the client. So I'm going to close it up and put it back under here now. Alright, so as you can see, this is already too high, so I will lower it just a little. that's low enough. And depending on how the bed is, you can reposition it as you need be. But as I stated earlier, you always want to make sure that this is not too close to the client's head, because once you lift them and start to hook their sling onto the hooks, they could be too low and then they bump their head while you're in. That would not be good for anybody. So from there, I'm going to turn this so you can see. There are, 3 different hooks on each side. When you're hooking the sling, you're actually only going to use the 2. There's a bar that loops and goes that way, and one that loops and goes the other way. Those are the hooks you're going to use to link your sling to the Hoyer. Miss Jackie, I'm actually going to put you on the purple one. Now, when you hook your sling, make sure you use the same color all the way around. Just because you don't want them to look discombobulated, hanging in the air. And as I stated before, you want to make sure that they are comfortable as well, because for a lot of them, it's not a familiar thing to be lifted up and moved around. So they have to know that you know what you're doing and be comfortable and confident that you know what you're doing, and that you're not going to have them swinging around or dangling around in the air just because, haphazardly. Okay, so I've hooked her head. I will hook her legs. I'm going to have you raise your legs too, Miss Jackie. If they can, they can help you with this part as far as bringing their legs up. And then you just bring the sling up to them. Now, Miss Jackie is taller, so I may not necessarily have to bring it up to the purple. So I can use the black there. But in any case, you never want the client to be dangling so far to where they can slide right out even after they're in the air. So once they're locked in, once again, talk to your client, let them know what you're doing. All right, Miss Jackie, you're all hooked up. What we're going to do now is I'm going to lift you up, and we're going to get you to your wheelchair, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now once you do that, if your legs are open, which they actually should have been, you would close the legs back up, and then you would pump. Use your lever to pump to start to raise the Hoyer. Please be careful. Don't be in a rush, because this is about them being comfortable in the process. And don't feel like you have to raise them sky high either. You want to raise them enough to where there's enough clearance under their bottom, between the surface that they're on and their bottom. Now once you do that, I always turn my clients to me, and then I pull them. I hang on to the sling, and I use the bar to pull them from under their bed. Make sure you take your time, because you want them to be as comfortable as possible. How you doing, Miss Jackie?
I'm doing good, thank you.
All right. So you've moved them from their bedroom to their living room. Now it's time to put them in their wheelchair. The legs. What you want to do is go back to those legs, open the legs on the Hoyer. So once that's open, and you would make sure that your wheelchair is positioned to where you can push this, either push the wheelchair under them or bring the Hoyer right around the wheelchair so that they can sit in it, so that they can be positioned in it. And the legs are wide enough. On most Hoyers, the legs are wide enough. So all I have to do now is slightly turn Miss Jackie to where she is positioned to be seated. From here, this is a little hard when you first start this process, because as I stated before, this is hydraulic. So you're gonna have to release this in order for the client to be seated into the Hoyer, into the wheelchair, excuse me. Please release slow, because because of the weight, it'll want to release quickly. You want it to release as slow as possible. And take your time until you start to feel it move. I think it's slowly moving this jacket. I just don't want to let you jump too fast. All right, so you can hear it actually moving. There are hooks underneath. What I do is I actually hold on to those, and as the Hoyer is lowering, I use those to guide her bottom into the chair. And right now you can tell it's moving really slow, but that's because I'm just cautious. I never want to be moving so quickly that a client falls. Say, Miss Jackie just reminded me, you want to make sure that their arms are actually tucked inside as well. And also, as it's lowering, you can also, what I used to do is help to guide this as well from the back, if need be, which gives you a little more control to make sure they're seated comfortably into the chair. And once you know they're in the chair good, in position good, you can lower it, release your valve a little quicker. All right. So she's in the chair, she's comfortable. You doing okay, Miss Jackie?
I'm good, thank you.
And you can even talk to them throughout the process as well. When you unhook the sling, try to make sure you pay attention to the bar, because you don't want to be moving about. And then you turn this, because this bar does turn, it does move. You don't want to accidentally bump it, and then you accidentally hit the client in the face. That wouldn't be good, once again. So I recommend doing one side and then moving to the other side, if that's possible with the space you have. Hold on to the bar and unhook the sling on the other side as well. Lower your sling in the back so that they're comfortable. And there they are.
Thank you. Oh, I am ready for the day.
From bed to wheelchair. When you are taking them to their room to get in their bed, you work the same process, except they're already in their sling. So all you have to do is hook it back up. Make sure you position everything correctly once you get in their room. Legs under, open the legs, lower your valve slowly. Once they're in bed good, you would just roll them to push the sling one way, have them roll towards you or the other direction, depending on which way you started, and then just remove the sling from under them. So.
That's it. All right. Thank you, Kalisha, for that demonstration and explanation. If any of you find yourself needing to use one of these and you're not comfortable, you can always call the office and somebody can come and help you. Or a lot of times you have a nurse or a aide from another agency that is there using one, and they will also show you. But you know, feel free to call and get some instruction if it's been a while since you've seen the demonstration or if you've never done it. Thank you.